Hello everybody, I'm Pierre Toussaint from C6. So first, I'd like to show you a quick demo of D2. This demo will be based actually on the configuration we are going to walk through during this webcast. So what you're seeing right now is D2 client, because the D2 solution is actually composed by two web applications. We have on one side D2 client, which is made for the end user, and on the other side we have another web application, which is here, which is D2 configuration, where you are going to configure your entire application. So first, let's see the client. So D2 client is quite close another Documentum client on the first side, because as you can see on the left, we have the task node, we have the favorites node, and the check it out document, searches, and you can also easily browse through the doc base in order to display the folder content quickly in the main frame. When we have created D2, we wanted to create something really close the Windows Explorer in order to do not disturb users, in order to do not change their behavior. This is why we've added a lot of functionality in D2 which are already in the Windows Explorer, such as right-click, multiple selection using the control key, also the ability to use keyboard shortcut in order to, for instance, select every document using Control plus A. Also the ability to change easily the displayed property, the user preferences, by displaying a new property like this. But actually, what is new with D2 client comparing with other Documentum client is that part below, which is the details zone. Thanks to that zone, you will be able to display additional information about the selected document. And what is nice is that you don't have to open a new dialog box to display those information. Everything will be displayed on the same screen. So for instance, the first detail zone is location, in which you can easily see where is the selected document located. For instance, here I can easily know that this document, number 67, is located in a folder, which is QA, form, and documentation folder. But I can also easily see that this document is also used in a virtual document. We have also, as detail zone, we have this version detail zone, in which you can see the list of all existing versions of the selected document. And what is nice is that using this version detail zone and Word document, you can easily select two different versions of a document, right click, select compare, and this will open automatically Microsoft Word in a tracking change mode, and so you will see easily what parts have been modified between those two versions. We also have rendition in order to see the list of the existing rendition of the selected document. Relation, if your document is related with other documents, you will be able to see those documents easily. We also have workflow detail zone, in which you will be able to see the list of every workflow where the selected document was a part of, and for each workflow you will be able to expand the workflow in order to display additional information. And for each line, which are actually different workflow tasks, you will be able to display additional information in order to see, for instance, for this particular task, when the task was sent, acquired, and forwarded. Finally, we have also the audit detail zone, in which you can see the list of every event that have been applied on the document. This list is configurable, and what is nice with the client is that every time that you have a list which is displayed, so that could be an event list like here in the bottom, but also just a folder content list, document list. Every time that you see a list, you can click on this black arrow and filter this list in order to only display the line that you want to see, and you can actually add additional filter in order to see, for instance here, what have been the saved property event on a specific version. You can also easily export any kind of list. So once again, the events list, a folder content list, a search result, any kind of list can be exported to Excel, and this will generate a real Excel file, and you can, thanks to that, do easily some reporting. So what I'm going to do now is to create a new document in order to show you how the configuration can be applied on a newly created document. When you want to create a new document with D2, you can just click on this button or go in the File, New Document. And here, on this dialog box, depending on the configuration, you will be able to choose between different values. Those values are linked to the document type that you want to create. In my case, I have this quality document management application, and when I want to create a document, I can choose between those three document type: form, instruction, or procedure. The property page, which is displayed right now, has been designed with D2 configuration. And so when you want to design a property page with D2, you can actually use different kind of control. You have, for instance, some text box, like here for the title. You have combos. Some control can be, of course, mandatory. Some control can be optional. You can also easily configure taxonomies in order to have a linked combo. Here, for instance, depending on the selected zone, I will have a different country list, like this. I also can have as control some lists. Some lists can be filled with DQL, like this author list. Some other can be filled using free text. And I can also easily, in this property page, configure some condition in order to choose to enable or disable some control depending on other control value. Like here, this regional checkbox can enable or disable the target combo. So now I'm going to click on OK, and this will create my document. But just before, I want you to know that in this specific application, I have configured an auto-link functionality. Thanks to this configuration, thanks to this auto-link functionality, the created document will be automatically linked into a specific folder structure which is based on the document property. In my case, my document will be linked automatically in the QA cabinet, then in a folder which will be based on the type value, so in my case procedure, and in this procedure folder there will be another folder, a subfolder, which will be based on the subtype value. So my document will be linked in QA procedure quality assurance. I don't have to be in this folder to create the document. D2 will link the document there and bring me automatically to the good folder structure. So, as you can see, my document has been created. It's located in QA procedure quality assurance thanks to this auto-linking functionality. And also you may notice that the document has been automatically named, once again based on my configuration. This configuration pattern is QA, then the creation year, and at the end a counter which is increased on every creation. On the top of D2 you can add some plugins in order to extend the D2 functionalities, the D2 features, and one of those plugins is O2, which is part of the Documentum D2 Plus pack. Thanks to O2, you will be able to synchronize automatically the property between Documentum and Office. If we have a look at the document content right now, we can see that the data displayed in the document are directly coming from the doc base. Here is the document title I have entered during the creation, document type, document subtype, language code, and here are my authors. If I close my Word file and check in it and then update the title, for instance. Now, if we go back and see the document content, we will see that the title has just been updated. So, from the client, you can easily create or import document. You also can easily use virtual document, manage easily virtual document. When you want to manage those virtual documents, you can see that on the left you have the cabinet, you have the folders, and you also have those objects which are actually virtual documents. When you want to display a virtual document, you just have to double click on it like this, and this will display the virtual document editor, D2 VD editor, in which you can see the entire VD structure. And what is nice is that from this VD editor you can easily add new document in it just by selecting those documents and then drag the document and drop it directly in the VD editor. So the document will be added automatically at the bottom of the virtual document. As you can see, the root node has been checked out automatically, so you don't need to do that manually. You can select multiple documents and do the same thing. You can also directly from this VD editor choose to move some of the component. You can also choose to remove them. So you can, thanks to that, easily use VD from D2, something really user-friendly. Now let's see how we can use workflow from D2. So let's go back on the document we have created, which is this one. When you want to send a new document in a workflow, you have to go in this document menu and select send to workflow. Here, depending on the selected document, you will see a list of different workflow. In my case, I have only one: review and approval. This dialog box is the launch workflow dialog box. So in the first tab, you can define who will be the workflow performers. In the second tab, you can choose to type a workflow note. You can choose also to add some attachment in order to approve, to review and approve more than one document at a time. And in the last tab, you can define some planification option in order to set your workflow up on Friday, let's say Friday evening, and start this workflow automatically on Monday morning. You can also easily enable a follow-up in order to send a notification if the workflow is not ended at a particular time. So I will click on send, and this will start my workflow. So this workflow, the first workflow task will be displayed in this task node. So here is my new workflow task. As you can see, when we are in the task node, the details zone at the bottom is different. You don't have access to the same information. For instance, the first detail zone is the task detail, in which you can see the task subject and the task message, which are, of course, fully configurable. As you can see, you can display easily document property directly in the subject or in the message, and you can even enter some HTML task message in order to display a table like this with some of the document main property. At the bottom we have the document, and we can easily from this document double click on it to view it, or right click and select property to display the document property. We have also this other detail zone, which is workflow node, in which you can easily collaborate by adding additional workflow node. We have also the participants tab, and thanks to that tab, to that part, you will always be able to know who have to do something in this workflow, because you can see who have to write the document, who have to review it, who have to approve this document. And we also have this nice graphical workflow preview. Sorry. And so thanks to that, you won't be lost in the workflow, because you will always be able to find where you are. We are currently in this document writing task, document authoring. And as you can see from this task, I will be able to choose if I want to send my document to review or to direct approval. And so if I try to end my task, accept it, I can choose between the different paths. I will choose approval, direct approval. So now my task will be removed and a new one should be sent soon. Here it is. So here is the new approval task. If we have a look at the preview, we can see that we are now in this approval task. Because this task is an approval task, I have configured to ask for an electronic signature. So if someone wants to approve the document and try to end the task, this pop-up will be displayed and the user will have to enter again its login and its password. So I will do that. As you can see, at this time, my document was in the draft status, but when I will click on OK, the document will be sent automatically to the approved status. Okay, so we have, anyway. So the document has now been approved, and what we can see on this document is that when we will try to open it, because now the document is approved, I have configured to secure and apply watermark on the approved document. I can do that thanks to another D2 plugin, which is C2. C2 is also a part of the Documentum D2 Plus pack. And thanks to C2, when you will try to view a document, so if you remember the document we have created was like that, so it was a simple Word document. Now, if you try to view this document by double-clicking on it, here is what you will see. You will see an updated version of the rendition, a secure version of the rendition, because as you can see, I cannot print this document, I cannot modify it. And in this document, thanks to C2, I have added a cover page with dynamic property. This is the document name, this is the document status. I have also added a table of content, which is based on the PDF bookmark, so it's a dynamic table of content. I have added also an history page, a signature page, and here is the document content with a watermark added, also an header and footer with a page number displayed at the bottom. I have done that thanks to C2. So few more things about the client. We have this nice thumbnail view mode. So thanks to this, you will be able to display every document first page of the document, of the folder content. And what is nice is that if you let your mouse on the top of a document, pages are switching and you can see the entire document content in those small thumbnails. I also have this nice tooltip that will show the main property of the document. And using those thumbnails, I can also click on this quick view button in order to display high resolution thumbnail. And thanks to that, you will be able to read the document using this, and you can sometimes avoid to download the document on the client side and read the document just this way. We also have the searches functionality from D2. So to search a document, you can use the full text search. Like this. And what you see right now is based on the 3.1 version, which is not released yet. It will be released at the end of the year. But in this version, we have added the Explore integration, and we have added the Explore Facet functionality. So when you want to look for a document using full text, you can see right here facets coming from Explore, and you can easily filter your search by using those facets. If you want to look only for document in PDF format, modified, let's say this month, by quality user 1, and if the subtype was, let's say, instruction, you can easily filter your search this way. You can also use this advanced search dialog box in which you can create some complex searches. So first you have to select one or many types. Depending on those types, you will be able to choose a property. Depending on the property, you may use a value assistance. And then you have several options such as asynchronous search, search on all version, do a case-sensitive search. Also, you can restrict your search on a specific location. And choose what are the display settings. If you leave this part empty, this will use the user default preferences. You can also save your search, so you can save your own searches, or you can save public searches like this one. So everyone will be able to use those searches. And so you have different ways to perform search. You have this full text search, this advanced search functionality, but you also have a last way to do search, which is the use of query form. Thanks to the query form functionalities, you will be able to define form like this one, and user will be able to look for document using this form, which is, let's say, more user-friendly than this complex advanced search dialog. And so user will be able to easily search document this way. Okay, so now let's move forward to the configuration.
Hey, Pierre.
Yes.
If you don't mind, we did have a few questions during the client demonstration. I thought I'd maybe take a...
Okay, yeah, tell me, sure.
Yeah, so the first, I guess the most recent one here is from Amit Pahuja. He was wondering what formats are supported for thumbnails view.
Actually, thumbnails are based on rendition server. So you can use, for instance, ADTS, and so every format that can where ADTS can generate thumbnails can be viewed in D2.
And I think to add to that, we can also include image formats, correct, from MTS?
Yes, also, yeah.
Right, but there are, I don't believe there are special handlers around video, for example, at this point.
No, right.
So MTS compatible formats, images, and DTS and ADTS formats for documents.
Yes.
Okay. We also have a question around when you were doing document creation in a folder. We had a question from Andy Khorshid asking what happens if a user doesn't have write permissions to that folder. Because of the way that you can automatically create documents and and assign security, we're not sure. Is there a point where a user gets an error around ACLs if they don't have right permission to the folder? Or what?
Actually, the auto-link functionality link document in folder with an administrator session. So user don't need to have the write permit. They just need the read permit in the folder in order to be able to view those documents. But yeah, if you don't have, let's say, the read permission on the folder, you will have some error message. Yes.
Okay, so by basically, in effect, by having access to the properties screens and just the creation dialog for a certain type, they'll be able to create the document because it's an administrator session that's actually doing the auto linking and putting the file in the folder. Okay. And then we also had a question from Paul Colburn around the hyperlink functionality. When you click on that hyperlink button, could you maybe give us a quick overview of what that does and how it's used?
Yeah, sure. So this hyperlink functionality will allow you to write directly in the document content to put in the document content a link to another document, like so my document was so you can choose from this dialog box if you want to point on a specific let's say bookmark on a specific chapter of your document. You can choose it here because those bookmarks are extracted from the PDF rendition. And so if you want to point, let's say, on the company description, then my link is stored in my clipboard. So what I can do now is go back on my document, insert hyperlink, and as you can see, I have now this D2 link, which is a D2 technology. And now if I will click on this link, this will open automatically the document coming from the doc base, and the document will be displayed as if we were on a file store. Okay?
Okay, so that hyperlinking functionality allows you to actually place a link in the document that refers to another document, but D2 is also able to track those links through this.
Exactly.
Are those DM relationship objects, or are they some sort of documentum relationship that's...
Yeah, it's a D2 relationship, actually. There is one D2 object created for each link.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So that's, yeah, I think that'll help. And I think maybe when we talk about D2 config, we can talk a little bit. I know there have been SE questions in the past around where are those configuration details stored, and maybe explaining that a little bit as we talk about configuration will help, help people understand that relationship. But yeah, I think that's all the questions we have so far. Everyone, if you have more questions, feel free to use the Q&A window at the top of the screen. I am now watching it, and I'll go ahead and make sure we ask Pierre as they come up.
All right. So now let's talk about the D2 configuration tool. So first thing to know is that the entire D2 configuration is actually stored directly in the doc base. Okay, with D2 there is no need for external database or thing like that. Everything is stored in the doc base. When you want to install D2, you have to first install a DAR or a doc app in order to add in the doc base the D2 configuration object type. And actually everything that you will see in this D2 configuration tool is coming from the doc base. So when you want to create a configuration an application with D2, you will have to deal first with those objects on the top. Those objects are document sets. So they are sets of documents which are defined with one or many document types, and those sets of documents are also based on an optional condition. And so the thing is to create sets of documents, like for instance every quality related document in the draft status, every quality document in the review status, approved, obsolete, for instance, based on this A status property. And then the thing is to create some business rules. Every business rules can be created as a configuration object. So you can create different kind of business rules. For instance, auto-naming business rules, property page, security, auto-link, lifecycle, workflow, different lot of ability from there. And then when you want to apply your business rules on a set of documents, all you have to do is actually to check into this grid, into this matrix, in order to match the configuration object, business rules, in my case here, for instance, the security configuration, the security configuration I have created, and a set of documents. And then, because I have checked into this grid, into this matrix, my security configuration with the set of documents, every time that a new document will be sent to the draft status, then this security will be applied. So thanks to that, you can easily create, thanks to this way of working, you can easily create an application, and also you can easily update, extend those applications. So just to show you how easy it is to extend an existing application, what I'm going to do now is to update the property page. Okay, so here is the property page editor we have created. We have used, actually, sorry, we have used during the creation part. If you remember, when we have created a document, we've used this property page. And this property page, as I say, has been designed in D2 configuration. What you see on the left, right here, is the property page structure. And so what I'm going to do now is to add in this property page a new tab. Let's call this tab EMC, for instance. And in this EMC tab, I will add a new text box with the subject property. I can check on the real-time preview mode if my tab looks fine, so I'm good here. And so I will save it. And actually this is it. My configuration has just been updated. I don't need to restart my server. I don't need to publish anything. If I go back on the client and try to view this document property page, the property page will now be displayed with this new EMC tab, and I can enter the new subject. We can also do this easily for, let's say, the way documents are linked, because as I said before, my documents are linked into the QA cabinet, then in a folder based on the R object type property, and in a subfolder based on the subtype property. I can easily add a new level, for instance, based on the zone, geographical zone. And I can easily add this level. Once again, I just have to save the updated configuration. Don't need to restart my server. And if I go back on the client and try to save the document property again, select the zone and the country, my document will be automatically moved in a new folder, which is North America. This new folder had just been created and my document moved in this new folder. And so from the configuration, you can actually sorry, you can actually configure a lot of things which are related directly to the document, like the security, the property page, the way documents are linked, the way documents are named, lifecycle, workflow, a lot of different things available. But you can also configure a lot of things from this tool related to the user interface. So you can, for instance, directly from the configuration, define what button of D2 client, those one right here, what button can be displayed or hidden, and depending what condition. For instance, if you don't want to, let's say, use relation in the or workflow in your application, if you don't want to use workflows, just click on here to hide the button, and then if I click on a new folder, the workflow detail is displayed here, but now this button, this detail zone has been hidden easily. And so you can, from the client, configure the way user interface will be using this button and this menu configuration, but you can also easily change the D2 client skin in order to change the property page border. Once again, really easily. You can configure the D2 client skin. You can also change the header in order to change the color like this. You can add easily a company logo like this one, for instance. And you can also change the way menu will look, the way selected document will look, and you can even add custom icon depending on the object type or the format. So you can really easily, from D2 configuration, configure a lot of business rules related to the document, but also directly related to the user interface. And when you have done this configuration, let's say in the development environment, you can go in this file menu and select export configuration, select your application, and here you will see in this dialog box every configuration object used in the application. So you can choose to export everything, or you can choose to export, let's say, just the property page we have updated, and for instance the auto link configuration we have updated. But here, let's export everything. You can even put in this configuration archive business doc app, so you can easily install document object type by importing the configuration.
Hey, Pierre. While that's churning, we had a quick question from Gilda. She was wondering if are these settings saved as XML? If so, in what location, and can they be manually changed by modifying the underlying?
Actually, it depends on the configuration object. Some configuration objects are saved as XML files, like, for instance, property page, lifecycle, workflow. A lot of different configuration are saved as XML, but some other are saved directly as documentum table.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my configuration has been generated, and now let's say that we moved to the production environment. You can this time go and select File, Menu, Import Configuration, then select the zip file, and here from this configuration screen you can once again choose to import everything and reset the existing configuration, or you can choose to once again just select the property page and the auto link that we have modified and just import those configuration objects. And one last thing about this configuration presentation is that you can, from this web application, go in this specification menu, select Generate Specification, and you will be able, thanks to this menu, to generate automatically a PDF document describing the entire configuration. Everything will be described in this document. So, for instance, you can see, let's say, the property page, and you can see right here the entire property page structure with the new item that we've added. We can also have a look at the auto-link configuration, where we can see the updated auto-link configuration. And so thanks to this, you will be able to generate every time that you want the PDF document, the PDF specification, and you will be able to have always specification up to date, because when you will make a modification, just generate this document and your specification will be up to date. Okay, so do you have questions related to the configuration?
I think that's all the questions people have been asking, but I think it might be worth just maybe I'll do a quick rehash. I mean, over the past couple of weeks, I've had a lot of questions around, how is this configuration managed, and I think that you've addressed that. This configuration tool has, a list of components down the left, a list of document sets across the top, and the power of it is that you can check a box to link a component to a given group of users or a document type. So, it's matrix driven, and then you drill into each component to configure them. Those configurations are D2 specific, so they're on top of everything you have to create in the content server. And that'll become important as everyone is out there trying to build their own demos. This is really the presentation layer. When you define security, settings in D2, so that D2 knows how to automatically apply security, beforehand you'll need to create, permission sets a lot of times in Documentum. For workflows, you'll need to create a workflow template in Documentum before you can design how D2 manages that workflow in the presentation layer. So, this doesn't absolve you from configuring a bunch of things in the content server, and in effect it's an extra layer of control and an extra layer of configuration. So I think, as we move forward, you'll learn more about how this fits together, and we'll walk through some examples, and people will, I think it'll become more evident as we work through it. But feel free to continue asking questions if you have them as we go forward, and hopefully we'll address them by the end of the session.
Okay, so we will move forward, and we will walk through this D2 configuration tutorial. So here, right now, the goal of this web part will be to create from scratch the application I've just shown you. So what we want to configure right now is the ability to create those documents, instruction, procedure, or form document. Then the ability to be able to see this property page, and then the ability to link automatically documents based on different property, to name automatically documents based on the property, to have also a life cycle, a workflow, all of those things that we've been through during this demo. So in the training environment that we are going to use now, there is already document types already imported. Those document types are directive, instruction, and procedure. Those document types are inherited directly from DM document. And in the Documentum content server, we have already installed this workflow template. And so we are going to use all of those things for the configuration.
And just to clarify, not everyone, I'm not sure if everyone's working off the same image. Ideally, everyone that's listening to this is has downloaded or is working with a checked out image that corresponds to the training. So it will have the object types, the workflow template, the users and groups that you see here pre-created in the image. You'll be able to just build off of those in D2 config. But if you're one of those special people that have decided to start creating your own image, that's great. Just know that you'll need to work through these first two slides and create the users, groups, types, and workflow templates before you'll be able to configure D2 around them.
Hey, awesome. This is Chuck. Awesome. This is Christian. I haven't sent out the information for the install stuff yet to everybody, but I will do that as a follow-on. So the installation documents and the doc tab, essentially the doc types and so forth, will be sent in a separate email. So if you want to venture out and do that, you're welcome to do that on your own.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, we are going to go through different steps, different configuration steps. And the first step that we are going to configure is the creation process configuration. So actually, when you have installed D2 on an empty doc base, if you don't do any configuration, you won't be able to create a document. D2 needs a small configuration in order to be able to create document. So the goal here is to create a creation matrix. A creation matrix on the client side is actually the thing that you have seen from here. Here is a creation matrix, and the creation matrix will allow you to create a document depending on the value selected by the user. And so thanks to this creation matrix that we are going to create, we will be able to select the created type, the used property screen, and the starting number of version. So the goal right now is to be able to see this configuration screen, and when we will have selected one of those values here, to see the property page right here. So to be able to do that, we have to go through 4 steps. First, we have to create dictionaries. We will actually create 2 dictionaries, one for the document types, one for the document subtypes. Then we will create a taxonomy, type subtype, in order to link the type and the subtype combo in this property page. Then we will create a property page, which will be this one, display on the top. And finally, we will create a creation matrix in order to link all of those objects. So the first part is...
Pierre, do you mind if I jump in real quick? Just on that previous slide, we had a lot of questions during the initial SE training on why we have to walk through these things and how they all kind of relate together. And I think some of the quick answers to why, if we could pop back up to the previous slide real quick. You've got these dictionaries because you'll notice back in Pierre's demo when he was looking at the different types, there was a short list there. It wasn't the long list you're used to seeing in our demo servers of DM document and everything. So a dictionary is a list in D2 that we're going to be able to use to pick, which object types do we really want to expose to the users and how can we present those in a human readable language. So, dictionaries are referenced later on throughout this process, but that's an important thing to note is that we're going behind this, the big configuration matrix that you normally configure in for these creation things, because dictionaries are basically like global lists that all the different components you configure in D2 can leverage. There's also a creation matrix that we're going to look at that it's different, it's separate from the normal configuration grid that you work with where you're linking components to different document types or users. The reason that you have to have a creation matrix is because when you first upload a document in the Documentum, it doesn't have an object type yet. So if it doesn't have an object type, you can't use the normal mapping matrix to say, this type should get these components and should show these properties screens. So there's a special configuration matrix for document creation that we're going to configure that defines, what types do we want to make available to the users based on the dictionaries, and it allows you to define that user experience for when people are uploading new content. So this is something that, if you're working with your demo images and you want to add just like a normal document format to upload documents as, you need to go through these 4 steps and create, a diction, at least add a value to your types dictionary, add an entry to the creation matrix, and change the properties screen to be able to upload normal documents. And it looks, at first glance it looks complicated, but realistically, once you know what you're doing, it's very simple and straightforward, and it's something that, for a small work group implementation of 50 people, they wouldn't have to worry about it because the implementation team would just do that during installation. So this is, these are the tools that go into creating content. And it's, a lot of it is either underlying global objects or it's part of this creation matrix that later on will feed into what you're doing with the normal, configuration matrix with the rows and columns. So that was just a quick, hopefully that answers a lot of the questions that we've kind of heard leading up till now. And thank you, Pierre. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Austin. So we are now going to create a dictionary. So a dictionary is basically a global list of value. And when you want to create a dictionary, you have to go in this data menu and select dictionary, then click on new. And from here, you will be able to enter what will be your dictionary name. And you can actually, in D2 configuration, group every configuration object with an application in order to be able later to export only the configuration object related to that application. So when you want to create a new configuration object, just remember to add it to the good application. A dictionary can also be modified directly from the client, because we did not see that earlier, but from the client you have this administration node in which you can update a lot of objects like dictionaries, taxonomies, template lists. We will see those objects later, but the important thing to understand is that people can modify some of the configuration object directly from the client. They don't need to go in the configuration to do that. And you will define who are those people based on this administration group. So if you configure this, that means that every people coming from this QA admin group will be later able to update this dictionary from the client. A dictionary is actually composed by keys. So I can have as many keys as I want. And also a dictionary, for each key, you can add as many translation as you want. And so you can create your dictionary this way, or you can also create your dictionary in an Excel file and choose to import this dictionary from Excel. So here is my dictionary. I have in this dictionary three values: directive one, instruction one, and procedure one. And for each of those values, I have a label: directive, instruction, and procedure. So I will save this dictionary and I will create a new dictionary. Let's call it QA subtype. And so in this dictionary, I have to also select the application, once again the administration group, and as key I will use the one coming from the PowerPoint. So I have and finally quality control. So the thing to understand about those dictionaries is that when we are going to use those dictionaries in, let's say, a combo in order to save a value in a document property, the key will be the value that will be stored directly in the property value, and those labels will be the label that will be displayed to the end user. So end user is not supposed to see the key, and he will always see the label. So right now we have created a type dictionary and a subtype dictionary. What we want to do now is to link those two dictionaries in order to be able to have different subtype depending on the selected type. So to do this, I will create a taxonomy object. Once again, I will have to select the good administration group and the good application. And then I have to select my dictionaries, type and subtype. And here I have the list of the available value coming from the type dictionary, and from each value I can choose what will be the subtype. So for instance, if I want to be able to use documentation and equipment from the directive type, I can do it this way. Also, I can select people and production for instruction, and quality and QC for procedure. So here I have just created a taxonomy in order to have a linked value. A subtype will now depend on the selected type. As we have seen in the presentation before, we have to go through different steps. So first we have to create dictionaries, one for the type, one for the subtypes, then a taxonomy in order to link the type combo and the subtype combo. And now the next step is to create a property page. So when you want to create a property page from the client, from the configuration, you can go in the file, new, and select property page, or click directly in this button and select property page. So here is the property page editor that we have created, seen during the demo. And so in this property page editor, you have first, when you want to create a property page, you have to select first the document type that you want to use. Let's say procedure. Depending on this selected document type, you will be able to display in the property page the property coming directly from the selected type. So what we want to do now is to create this property page. So I have to display the name, the title, the type, and the subtype of my document. So first I will add a text field with the object name property. Then I will add a text box memo field with the title in it, and then two combo, one for the type, our object type property, one for the subtype. And so at every time we can use this display preview button in order to display the property page. What we can see right now is that every time that you want to add a new control in your property page, every control is added one below the other. And if you remember, what we want to do is to have, for instance, type and subtype on the same line. So to do this, we are going to use this object, which is a column set. You can define how many columns you want, and we are just going to drag and drop subtype and object type. Let's change the property page size and check the preview now. So here is our property page. Okay, and so now I have to configure those combo in order to use the taxonomy that we have created just before in those combo. So I will select taxonomy as value assistance, select the type as level, automatic as language, and because I want the R object type combo to filter the subtype combo, I will select subtype right here. Same thing for subtype, taxonomy, level will be subtype, language will be automatic, And here, because subtype is the last level, I don't need to select anything from here. Now, if we have a look at the preview, I have this subtype value display, and if I want to change, for instance, the type, I will have here a different value. Same thing for directive. Because in the creation matrix, if you remember what I've said, actually when a user will select a value in this combo, it will automatically select the document type that we want to create. And so when the property page is displayed, the type has already been chosen. So we don't want people to be able to update this combo. This is why we are going to disable this combo for the creation mode, the edition mode, and the import mode. And actually, we have here 3 different buttons, because depending on the mode, we can have different conditions. I will also set subtype as required, and also object name as required. So now I can check my property page right now. Seems good. So I will just save it. And just before, I just want to check something in my subtype, because it seems I have some space in the label, like this. Okay, good. So now we have created the 2 dictionaries, one for the type, one for the subtype. We have created the taxonomy. We have created the property page. Last part, sorry, will be to create a creation matrix. To create a creation matrix, from the main screen, you have to go in the creation mode and select creation matrix. Then again, click on new. And so in this screen, you will be able to select first a dictionary. So we are going to select type. Depending on the selected dictionary here, when you will click in this white cell, you will see the value coming from the selected dictionary. And the goal of this creation matrix is to define that when a user will select this directive1 value, this will create a directive1 document, and this will display this property page, and the newly created document will be created in this version 0.1. So we can do it also for instruction and for procedure. I have also this combo, which is user group. If you want to restrict the use of this creation matrix in order to allow only people from, let's say, a specific documentum group, like for instance this QA contributor group. If you want that only people coming from that group to be able to create those documents, those document type, to use this creation matrix, you just have to define it there. So I will save it. And now, because I've done that, if I try to go in this client with a a simple user like user 1. And from using this user, I want to create a new document. I will see here the creation matrix that we have configured. That means that this user will be able to create 3 different documents from 3 different document types. And when he will click on OK, the user will see the property page we have created. And he will be able to select title and a subtype. So now,
we had a couple questions here, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So, well, first off, I had a question about, well, more of a comment that we're moving pretty quickly through this, and it's hard for people to follow directly. Just to address that, that is okay. You know, if we went at the speed that everyone would need to complete this on their own, having seen it for the first time, we'd need about the same 2.5 days it took us to do it in Pleasant. So the goal here is for everyone to be able to see this, you know, this presentation, which is a tutorial and learning script, to see it walked through live by Pierre, and to be able to ask questions for things that that you don't understand. Later on, if you don't already have access to it, you will get access to the presentation materials and a recorded demonstration of what we're walking through here. So, you know, the idea is that today, for the next few hours, sit with us, listen, engage, ask questions, and we'll help you understand, you know, how this all fits together and what you'll be doing. Then later, take the PowerPoint and the recording and your demo system and walk through it at your own pace. You know, it'll probably be pretty tough for those of us that aren't experts at the system to walk through this at this speed. The other thing we got a question back when we were looking at taxonomies. So taxonomies are the relationship between different dictionaries, and you know, in that case, you take values from one dictionary and then map multiple values underneath it. And the question was around, you know, what is the business value for relating dictionaries? And I can take a stab at it if you want, Pierre, and then give it to you, or
yeah, what I can tell is that if you remember in my demo environment, when I wanted to create a document, so actually this is the final version of the configuration, but what we've seen is that when we wanted to create a document, we were able to select 2 different properties. One was, for instance, zone, and the other was country. And I think this is the best example for a taxonomy, because depending on the selected zone, you will have access to a different country list. And I think that zone, so let's say continent or geographical zone, and country could be the best business application for those taxonomy.
I think that's a great example. So taxonomies and the ability to relate dictionaries to each other is provides this type of example where you've got zones and then countries, but that can be used for any type of metadata. I mean, you're seeing throughout the application how we're using that for our types and subtypes. So we're using it at for this particular business, they have different types of documents and then types that are categories under those types. So the taxonomy is being leveraged there. If you're in an industry that has specific any categories that need to be grouped up by parent categories, and maybe they have 3 or 4 layers of these, this is where you can use a taxonomy and to relate multiple dictionaries. So that question was from John Blum, by the way. Thanks for bringing in the business value there. And I think that is all we have for now. Actually, I see another one up here. Let me check it real quick. So I also have a question here. Is it possible to specify any validators for checking data entered by a user into a field? So I think this is for general property screen work. can we validations for data being entered?
No, no, there is no such thing in D2. You can actually you can do that with customization, but from the configuration in this this is not possible.
Right, and are you talking about I'm not sure if the question is around validating against external sources, or just making sure that the data is entered correctly. I mean, there are tools in the form design itself where you can, ensure that people are entering. They'll get a date picker for working with dates and be properly formatted.
Yeah, if you want, let's say, to enter only digits, for instance, I think this is the question. That thing is not possible yet with D2.
Right. Okay. So no, like regular expression-based validation.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
And I believe that's all we have for now.
All right. So, okay, we have now finished to configure the creation process. So that means that now from the client we are able to create document, and so as we've seen on that slide, our goal now, after the configuration, the creation process configuration, will be to associate behavior, associate business rules to our document. And so to do this, we are going through different steps. First, we are going to create different document sets. And then, as we've seen during the demo, we will apply business rules on those document sets. As business rules, we are going to apply a template list in order to be able to create document with content coming from the configuration. We are also going to configure security rules, auto-link functionality, as we've seen, to link automatically document into the good folder structure, and auto-naming also, to name automatically document. Then we are going to configure a lifecycle associated to the document and let's say enhance our property page by adding a lot of control. So to do this, we are going to use the main configuration matrix, which is the main grid that we've seen during the demo. And it's important to understand how this main matrix works, actually, because as I said during the demo, you have to create document sets, and then you have to create settings element, configuration, object, business rules, which are here on the left. And by double clicking in the matrix, in the grid, you will be able to apply the configuration on the document contained in the document set. And so, as we've seen, a document, so if I go, for instance, okay, so a document can actually be part of different document set, and this is something that you have to understand, because it's really important. A document, let's say some instruction document, in my case right here, can be a part of different document sets. So for instance, this document set where every instruction document will be contained in, but also the document can be contained in this QA document, because in this document set, every document of directive, instruction, and procedure will be contained. And so what is important to understand is that when D2 will browse this matrix in order to apply configuration, for instance, security, D2 will have a reading order. And so that means that if you want business rules to be applied correctly, let's say, you will have to put the more specific document set on the left and the more global document set on the right. Just to show you that more quickly, I just want to show you something in my existing application, so just a few seconds. Okay, so just to explain to you that more clearly, let's say, for instance, that we have created some specific security business rules. And so we have created different document sets. We have, for instance, created a document set containing every quality-related document in the draft status. We have created another for the document in review, approved, obsolete. And we also have this QA document, which is a global document set, which contain every document which is quality related. And so when we want to apply a security on documents, let's say that we want to apply a specific security on the draft document. I have here my draft document set, and I have here my draft security business rules. When D2 will read the matrix from the left to the right, it will stop on the first match. So right here, I want to apply my security on my draft document. Is my draft document contained in this document set? Yes. So I will apply the good security. But now, if we have this document set like this, every document, every quality related document is contained in this QA document set. And so, because I have configured this, when I will try to apply the security once again on my draft document, because my draft document is also contained in this QA document set, and D2 stops on the first match, this QA global security business rules will be applied. So it's really important to understand that in this main matrix, you have to order properly your document set, and that means that you have to put the more global document on the right and the more specific document on the left.
So just to emphasize why that's important, one of the first issues that a lot of people seem to run into when they're configuring, one of their first D2 applications, they configure a whole bunch of components, everything looks right, but for some reason the wrong properties screen is showing up for a certain type of file, or the wrong security is getting applied to a document. That's where it's important to remember this and to come back and just make sure that you look at the checkbox for the property screen you want to have show up, and check, make sure that there aren't other property screens that have a checkbox to the left of them. And if there are, you can manage that by dragging the columns around into the right order so that your order of precedence is correct. So it's Pierre is absolutely correct in bringing this up as an important concept, because it's one of the first things that gets people messed up is, if you've got some component checked too far to the left, some document set too far to the left, and then it can make it difficult to get what you expect to configure.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we have described the way this main matrix works, we are going to create a document set. So when you want to create a document set, let's go back on the training environment. When you want to create a document set, you can go in the File, New menu and select Document Set, like this, or directly click on this button and select Document Set. And so, as we've seen, a document set is actually defined by one or many document types. So the goal right now is to create a new document set. Let's call it QA all documents. This new document set will contain every document coming from the directive 1 type, procedure 1 type, and instruction 1 type. So this will be the more global document set of our application. So I will create this one, and I will also create three new other document set. There will be one only for the directive, one only for the instruction, and one only for the procedure. And thanks to this, we will be able to apply different different business rules depending on the document set, depending on the type. So, sorry, I have made a mistake. I did not add the application to those document sets. So, I will do that right now.
So this might be a good time to also talk a little bit about applications. I've seen, I had questions from people after the initial training. How do you create an application? So applications are how we're grouping these configurations. So you can, trim it down and view just a certain style of configuration, a certain number of components, and you create them in that creation screen for an object. Like if you're looking at a properties screen, you have the option to choose an application that you can use to group it with other components, and there's also a plus sign that you can use to create the application right there. I don't know if are there any other ways to manage applications?
No, those are the only way. As you just said, when you want to create a new application, just click on this new button and enter the application name. When an application is already created, all you have to do is to click on this ellipsis and select the application name in the list right now, right here.
And I guess if we try and tie that back to business value, applications are the way that you keep configuration relatively simple for the administrators, because as you build out your D2 application, you'll get a lot of different components and a lot of document sets, and this matrix will get pretty big. So use applications to basically encapsulate a group of configurations into one grid, and know that they're all in effect in D2 if they're in here. But it helps you organize. So this is a tool for the administrators.
Exactly. Just to let you know, one funny fact is that Sanofi, one of our main customers in Europe, use D2, and all of their applications are on the same doc base. And they have more than 25 applications in the same database, and they have more than 800 document sets, like here. So it's really a big matrix, and this is why they have grouped their document set by application in order to be able to only display the configuration that they were looking for, and not the entire configuration, which is too huge to be understood. So we have now created our 4 new document sets. As I said before, it's really important to put the more global document set on the right. So I'm going to move this QA all document at the end, like this, in order to do not impact the other document set. And in this main matrix, what I'm also going to do is to double click like this in order to check the property page we have created before with this QA all document. And I'm going to save it. And thanks to this, in the client, when I will try to view the property of an existing document, this will be the property page which will be displayed. So this property page is displayed because we have just applied this property page on those documents. Now, in the configuration training slides, the next step is to configure template. So you may have noticed that the document that we have created, this one, doc1, is actually a document without any content. So I have just created some empty file, because in this application I don't have configured a content template now. Currently in this application, when I want to create a new document, I cannot choose a content template. So this is what we are going to configure right now. When you want to configure this, what you have to do is to select a new template list. And so in this template list, you have once again to select the application, select once again the administration group in order to be able to update, to modify those templates from the client. And then in this list, you can choose what are the templates that you want to use. So as template, we can, what I'm going to do is to create 2 new Word documents. And I will select so I have just created 2 new documents, which are going to be my content template. So I will select those documents. Here is my Excel file, and here is now my Word file. And so I have just added those 2 templates. I will save it. And so now I have just created a template list configuration. What I'm going to do now is to check this template list configuration, content template configuration, with the QA all document set. I will save it. And thanks to this, now when I will create a new document, After the property page, when I will click on OK, I will see a new dialog box that will allow me to select what is the content template that I want to use. Let's say a Word document. And so now, thanks to this, my document will be created with a Word content.
So while Word's coming up, we have another question on the line. This one is from Americ Morel. He's asking, what happens if you have the same document type being leveraged in two different applications? You know, how do you avoid conflict between, you know, two different properties that are set up, property pages that might be set up for the same document type in two different applications?
Okay, good question. Actually, usually you won't have that case, because usually you will have you will use the same document type in one only application, and you will have in different application different document type. But if you have this case, actually you have to display your matrix by selecting all elements right here. All elements will display all of the existing document sets. And so with this mode, you will have to check that you don't have any conflict between your two different document sets using the same document type.
So I guess the important thing to remember is that as you're creating different applications, they're all still part of the same D2 configuration for, you know, for a given repository and D2 client. So they're all part of one matrix. The applications are almost a way of filtering down what you see when you're working with the configuration. So as a best practice, it's probably good for yourselves and the people that you teach to try and lump, you know, all of the configurations for one document type into one application so that you can see how they're all affecting each other. But if you do, you know, if your complication is complex and you have a need to configure, you know, different applications to work with the same document type for maybe different user groups, that's where you can use the all elements filter to see all of your applications in one matrix and resolve conflicts. But conflicts are resolved just by making sure that, you know, your document sets across the top are ordered correctly and that the checkboxes are appropriate for the components that you want to expose to different document sets. We also have we have further questions from Ameriki saying, will then the first one in the list be applied independently of the application? And that's absolutely correct. So
exactly, yeah, that's it.
So the first, when you look at all elements, what it's going to come down to is, you know, the document sets that are checked to the leftmost in your column views are what's going to take precedence. So if you need to, you know, move around columns, then that's the all elements is where you could say, okay, I want this document set from application A to happen before this document set in application B. Then you go back to the application views to manage those individual components.
Yeah, this is exactly this. Just one more thing about that people have to understand, I think, is that application in the configuration is just a way to group, to relate configuration object and nothing more. There is, when you want to use D2 client, you don't use an application name to connect to the client. Okay, so there won't be any restriction between the different application based on the user. What is important is this main matrix and the document set order.
So another way to approach this is to be more specific with your document sets. Would you mind clicking on one of the document sets so we can, like the QA all documents or something? Or yeah, direct,
Yep.
anything's fine. So when you look at this screen, you'll notice this is where we're defining where, you know, any components that are checked for this document set will show up. And you have the ability to use types like we have across the top, but you can also use groups and conditions. So if we want to take our QA document type and, you know, give different groups of users access to different properties screens, but all for the same type, you can take these, you know, right now we have our directive, instruction, and procedure, and we can apply them to a specific user group. So you could actually create multiple document sets for the same document type and, you know, proactively say, well, I want this group of users to see this property screen, and I want a different group of users to see another property screen. And then I think later on we may look at conditions for some other configurations, or if not, you know, just know that in there you can leverage, you know, a lot of different conditions. You can say, you know, if this metadata attribute equals a certain value, then, you know, work with this component.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, you're right.
So a couple best practices there. You know, feel free to be more specific with your document sets if you need to, but to keep it simple, you know, it also helps to probably build, you know, to design your application groupings around specific document types.
Okay, so let's move forward.
I got another question.
Okay, yeah, sorry, tell me.
No, that's fine. We got a question from Carlos. He asks, will Documentum XML applications be supported in the future?
Yes. Actually, as you have seen, during the demo, I've shown you one specific version with the new icon, which is the new version, which is a 3.1 version, not released yet, but it will be released at the end of the year. So it's almost released, let's say. And we are doing the training on the old one, the 3.0. And the new version 3.1 will support XML application.
Okay, great. So then I guess the last item here is it's 9:53. We are, depending on your time zone, we're approaching the 2-hour mark. I think it might be good to give Pierre and everyone else a bio break in the near future. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to? Is there a break point coming up where you'd like to do?
No, we can do it now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take.
Let's start at in 7 minutes. All right.
Okay, so at the top of the hour we'll resume.
Okay. Good.
All right, thank you, Pierre. Everyone, enjoy your break.
Yeah. Okay, so we are now going to continue this configuration, and so we have before the break created a document set, actually 4 new document sets, and we also have created a template list. So now when we want to create a new document, this new document can be created as a Word document or an Excel document, because we have just configured this part and imported 2 new templates, the Excel template and the Word template. So
Pierre, before we move forward, I think there's kind of a general configuration question that might be worth addressing here. We got one from David Jong saying, do documentum objects created in Composer show up on the D2 configuration palette? And then after that, also, if I were to create a TBO that on save, it would populate various attributes based on some rule, what would happen? Like, is that supported? Well, if the TBO throws an error, what would happen in D2? Do you have any comments around?
Yeah, okay. So first thing that I have to say about that is I did not talk about that earlier, but it's important. When you want to create a new D2 application from scratch, you will have to use the standard documentum tools like Composer or Application Builder to do 3 things. First is to create document types, so create the document types and put the custom property on the document types. This is the first point. Second point is to create or modify relation types. And the third point is to create or modify workflow template. So when you have done those things, you can move to D2 configuration and configure every other things. And so about the TBO now, actually we D2 product is based on the DFC DFS layer. That means that if you have created TBOs, they will be used directly from D2. But we usually recommend to remove all of those TBO, because usually what you've done with TBO can be done with the configuration. So that's the first explanation. The second explanation is that if you have written a TBO, for instance, on the save method, as the D2 configuration use a lot of saves to apply the configuration, because technically when you save the document properties, you will have one save to save the document property, then let's say a save to apply the template, a save to apply the auto-naming, a save to apply the configuration, the security, one another coming from the lifecycle. And so if you have a lot of processes in this save method, they will be executed like 5 or 6 times for each D2 save. So you may have performances issue. So we usually recommend to remove all of those TBO, try to do those things with the configuration, and if it's not possible with the configuration, create a D2 plugin, because you can slightly, let's say, customize D2 by creating your own plugin.
So I guess at this point, it's kind of dangerous to try and use TBOs underneath D2. The preferred method would be to either just configure it in D2 or use a D2 plugin that you can create as the customization for that piece. And then for the initial question about documentum objects created in Composer showing up in D2 configuration, things don't show up as components on the left-hand side of the overall configuration matrix, but you'll notice as we configure specific things, like when we're working with the creation matrix for our different types, we are, linking the dictionary values that we entered to actual document types created in Composer. So as you're creating D2 components, in some cases you're going to want to kind of leverage and link to underlying documentum constructs that are created in Composer. So right here in the creation matrix is an example of where that happens. For the most part, stuff you create in Composer doesn't show up in D2 until you have gone into the D2 configuration somewhere and figured out how you want to expose it.
Yeah. No more questions?
I believe that's it. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so next part will be the security configuration. Okay, so when you want to configure security with D2, you have to create this security configuration. So here is the security configuration of D2. This is a default screen, so you can first define what will be DM word permission and what will be the owner permission. What is important to understand for the D2 security configuration is that here you are going to create a D2 security configuration object, and the D2 engine will use this D2 object to generate automatically documentum ACL based on what have been configured. So as I said before, D2 is based on the DFC DFS layer. That means that we use the standard documentum mechanism to, for instance, apply security, do the auto-link, do the auto-naming. All of those things in the end are completely based on the documentum standard. And so in this security configuration, you can add a new row on your configuration in order to add to your security template a specific user and to give him some specific permission. So for instance, you can select user 1 and say that user 1 will have the right permission. You can also select a group in order to apply to this group a specific permission. But what is new is the ability to select directly a property and to give to this property a specific permission. So that means that when you will put in this property value a username or a group name, D2 will automatically grant, in my case, the version number to the user or to the group stored in this author's property. And thanks to that, you will be able to create some dynamic security template, because you will just create this security template once, and at the end, D2 will generate different documentum ACL, but you don't have to take care of those documentum ACL. All you have to care is this D2 security configuration.
So two distinct business benefits to keep in mind here. One, we're making it very easy for users to follow security without having to go in and add and remove users to specific documents. So it's, in this case, your administrators are defining the security, and it gets applied automatically based on what we create here. The other thing to note is that, as Pierre mentioned, this security configuration is creating and managing the documentum ACLs behind the scenes. So, one, they'll be effective if you log in via WebTop or one of our other applications and want to look at a document. There's still going to be an underlying ACL there to manage it. But two, because D2 is managing those ACLs, it knows if you're, uploading multiple documents, that should be leveraging the same ACL. So it's able to actually, in some cases, dramatically simplify the number of active ACLs and content server, and can, from what I've heard, improve performance at customer sites if they have a lot of ACLs that users are, creating on an ad hoc basis now. Because in D2, it can simplify that and tie your content to a shorter list of ACLs that it's managing behind the scenes. Just wanted to share some things that came up during training.
Exactly. Okay, so I have created here my security configuration, and once again what I'm going to do is to click on back and apply this security configuration on my QA all documents. I will save it, and now if I go on the client and let's say try to create a new document, okay. So, all right. So this new document will have the new security applied on it. So to check the security, you have to go on the File menu and select Permissions. And here you will see the D2 security template, which is used. And here, this security template details. And this document was not, the security was not applied on this existing document because it was not configured yet. And if you want to apply the security on an existing document, all you have to do is to click to open the property page and to click on OK in order to save the property and republish automatically as a configuration. And now, because I have done that, the new security is applied. So to do this, you can do that manually like I did, or you can also use one of the D2 job, which is used to republish the configuration on existing documents.
Where is that job accessed at?
That job is called D2 Job Core, and it's installed by default with D2.
Okay, so it's an actual Documentum job that you would just run. Okay, in DA. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we are now going to create a new security configuration QA folder, and this new security configuration is not going to be used directly in the main matrix. So let's do something like that. Okay. So as I said, this security configuration is not going to be used in the main matrix like this, but we are going actually to use this security configuration in another configuration object, which is the AutoLink configuration. So this is the auto-link configuration screen, the one that we've seen before. And so in this configuration screen, the way you are going to define how the document will be located, will be linked, is in that part. So in the first cell, what you will be able to do is to enter the text which will be the folder name. So what we have to configure now is a new auto-link configuration, and we want the first level of this auto-link configuration, the first folder cabinet level actually, to be named QA documents. And we can from here define what will be the security template that will be applied on this cabinet or on this folder. I can also add easily a new level, and in this level I don't want to enter static text like I did here. I want to put something dynamic, something based on a property. And to do this, what I'm going to do is to select our object type and add it to the folder, and I will do the same with subtype. Add it to the folder. And so if I try to apply this auto-link configuration on the document, my document will be linked into QA document cabinet, then in a folder based on the object type value, and in the subfolder based on the subtype value. But actually, if I leave the configuration this way, so this will use the key value of those properties. That means that when we have created a document, we've seen that the type displayed name for the type was directive, and the displayed name for subtype was, in my case right now, documentation. But in the dictionary that we have created at the beginning, we've seen that the key were actually directive1 in minor case, and for documentation, the key was just doc. So if we use this auto-link configuration like this, the created folder will be QA documents, directive1 minor case, and subtype will be just doc. And we don't want to do that. We want to use the good label for the folder. So we can actually configure a value mapping based on the dictionary in order to use the label for each property like this. So in my case, the document will be now linked into directive documentation. We will now use the good label. So I will save my configuration. Once again, check it with QA all documents. Save it. And so now, if I try to create a new document, or once again save the property of an existing one in order to republish the configuration, my document will be moved automatically to a specific folder structure, which is QA document, directive documentation. QA document, object type, label of the object type property, and label of the subtype property. One more thing about this auto-link configuration that we have to understand is that in those values, like subtype, you may have some characters which are forbidden in folder name, like for instance the slash character. And you can actually, in that part, configure configure some regular expression in order to say that you want to replace this slash character by, for instance, a dash. And so if your folder name has a slash in it, this slash will be replaced automatically by a dash. Is there any question about that part?
I don't see anything coming in. Looks like people got it.
Okay, good. Okay, so now let's move to another part, which is the auto-naming part. This part is quite close from the auto-naming, and so when you want to this part is quite close from the auto-link configuration. When you want to create a new auto-naming configuration, once again, all you have to do is to click on New Auto-Naming. And so here is the auto-naming configuration screen. From that screen, you can first define in what property will be applied the auto-naming, because it's called auto-naming, but you can actually apply it on any property, any existing property. And the auto-naming template, the auto-naming pattern, will be based, like we've seen with the auto-link, could be based actually on static text, like this, but it could also be based on a property. Once again, this property can be used just the way it is or with a dictionary. Then you can also choose to add a date, the creation date on the document using this format. And finally, you can also use a counter on different digits, let's say 4, and you can create your auto-naming pattern this way. When you want to use a counter, you will be here able to define a counter value, and you can choose to have a different counter value depending on the property used in the auto-naming. You can also use different options, like by default, this auto-naming will only be applied on the document creation or on the document import, but you can choose to apply it on every property modification, to regenerate the auto-naming on every new version. So you have several options. And once again, you can use those regular expressions directly from here. So I'm going to save my configuration and once again check it with QA all documents. Save it. And now when I will, I will also do something before in the property page, because now the name is, let's say, does not have to be entered. We are going to disable it, so I will select the object name control in my property page and uncheck all of those checkboxes in order to have my name combo disabled. So I will click on.
Just to make sure that's clear, I know that for some people this is your first time taking a deep look at configuring a component on the properties page. See, there are 3 tabs there. So there's enabled, visible, and required. So enabled is kind of like editable, and inside that tab for enabled, he had to check 3 boxes: one for creation mode, one for edit mode, one for import mode. Those are kind of the 3 places where this properties screen could show up in D2. So if you wanted to, you could leave creation. You can make creation mode uneditable, so that when people create a new document and it uses the auto-naming, you can't change that. But you could check the box for edit and make it so that people can change it if needed. So there is, there's an ability to control in one place the single properties screen, regardless of where it shows up by using these 3 boxes. So that's all I had. Just wanted to make sure people get a quick look at.
Yeah, sure. So now, if I try to create a new document from the client, I will see the name input text control disable, so I can type title, select the subtype, click on OK, and then this will create my new document. As you've seen, my new document is now automatically linked, but also automatically named QA based on this configuration template, QA, then the label of the object type property, then the creation year, and then at the end the counter, QA, directive, the creation year, and then the counter at the end. No questions so far?
No, none on that. I mean, maybe on the counter. One thing to note is that when you're configuring that name underneath the counter configuration, you can, there's a number here that says counter value. That's actually watching the current value of that counter. So if you need to, you can start it at a higher value, like 3,000 or just 0002, and you can create jumps in the counter if you need to. But this is a simple control for managing the counter being used there, and there are similar controls on this page for managing the rest of the file name.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's move forward to a big part, which is the lifecycle configuration. So what you have to know about that part is that as D2, as I said before, is based on the DFS DFC layer, D2 is fully compliant with the documentable lifecycle. That means that every lifecycle made in Composer can be used in D2, but from D2 configuration, you have the ability to create and to configure a D2 lifecycle, which is easier to configure, easier to maintain, and also really more flexible. And so this is what we are going to do now. We are going to create a new lifecycle configuration, a new D2 lifecycle configuration. So when you want to create a new D2 lifecycle configuration, first thing that you will have to do is to enter the different lifecycle states. So here the goal is to create this 4 steps lifecycle with 4 states: draft, reviewing, pending approval, and effective. So,
but just to be clear here, this is probably the first configuration we're doing where we're creating something completely new in D2, right? It's not relying on an underlying object type, or in this case, it's not relying on an underlying documentum lifecycle. We're actually creating a new lifecycle that is only recognized by D2, but is much more powerful.
Yes. So I have created my 4 states, and for each state I can define entry conditions. Entry conditions are, for instance, condition on a property. That means that if one of those defined entry condition has not been validated, you will not be able to enter, in my case, to this reviewing state. So as condition on a property, we can have, for instance, a status equals draft. That means that you won't be able to enter to this reviewing status if your A status property, your document, is not in the draft status. You have also different other condition on the rendition, like if you want to, where is it? You won't be able to enter to the reviewing status if you don't have a PDF rendition, if you don't have the right permission on the document. Also, yeah, this is interesting, that part. Let's say that you have in your application a main document, and related to this main document, you have different translated version of the main document. And what you want to be sure is that before sending the document to, for instance, the effective status, you want to be sure that the translated version are also effective. And so you can easily check this with the D2 lifecycle, because you will be able to say that if the related document through this DM translation of relation in that direction are using those lifecycle, let's go to that. If translated version of the main document are not effective yet, you won't be able to send the main document in the effective status. So that could be, and you can write the failed message, the error message just below. Same thing with virtual document. You don't want to be able to send the root node of a virtual document to effective if the VD component, VD children, are not effective yet. You can also configure that. And you can also, for really specific needs, you can call a documentum method, which will be executed on the JMS side. And so you can write your own method and call that from the lifecycle to check your custom conditions. When the entry conditions have been validated, you can now apply different actions on the document. So the first action that you will have to do, to execute, is to apply, to set the A status property with the good lifecycle state name. Because, as I said, what we are configuring right now is a D2 lifecycle. And the D2 lifecycle is completely different from the documentum lifecycle. For instance, with the D2 lifecycle, there is nothing attached to the document. There is no DM policy, there is no D2 policy. The only link between the lifecycle and the document is the main matrix and the A status value. So D2 will know that the document is in the reviewing status because its A status value is reviewing. And so usually for every lifecycle state, the first action that you will have to configure is to put the good state name in the A status property. And so you have also a lot of different kind of action. Like we also have the ability to apply directly from the lifecycle the auto-link, the auto-naming, and the security. For those auto-link, auto-naming, and security, you may notice that you don't have any parameter in that cell, because when you will ask D2 to apply security, this will go directly in the main matrix in order to apply the security that have been configured in this main matrix. So this is great because when you want to update the security, you just have to update it once in the main matrix, and this will be applied automatically on the lifecycle. You also have different other options, such as change other version state. So from here, you can say that, for instance, when a document is sent to effective, you want to send, I don't know, the okay, let's add, just for the sample, one last state. So when a document is sent to effective, you want to send the old effective version to obsolete. And so you can configure this easily just by doing something like that. You can also choose to remove other document version. So when a document is sent to effective, you want to remove every old draft version, and so you can configure things like that. Also, you have the ability to change linked document state. So now about my my example. Let's say that you have a main document, and again you have a translated version related to this main document. But this time what you want to do is, when you want to approve the main document, you want to approve automatically the translated version. So here, once again, what you should do is something like that. So now, when the main document will be sent to effective, related document will be also sent to effective. You can do the same thing with a virtual document. And once again, for specific needs, custom needs, you can call your custom document method, which will be executed on the GMS side. So now that was for the different action that can be executed when the document enter in a status. Now, for each state, what you can configure are the possible next state. Because with the documentum, with the D2 lifecycle, there is no limitation from the possible next state. That means that from draft, you can choose to send your document to reviewing. This will be a promote. And for each transition, you can define a menu label. This menu label will be displayed in this lifecycle. Okay, in this lifecycle menu. I don't have it configured yet, but and so from a specific state, you can add as many states as you want. That means that from draft, you can send your document to reviewing, but also to pending approval. from reviewing, you can send your document to pending approval. But also, you can send it directly back to draft. It's not remote. And so you can easily configure your lifecycle this way. So from pending approval, I can go to effective. And I can go to draft. And from effective, I can go back to draft. So I have here this lifecycle simple preview showing me that from draft I can go to reviewing or to pending approval. Then from reviewing I can go to pending approval or go directly back to draft. From pending approval I can go to effective and draft. And from effective, I can go directly to draft. So, we have now configured our lifecycle, really simple lifecycle, showing that from draft we can go to reviewing. From reviewing, we can go to approval, and from approval, we can go to effective. And for reviewing, pending approval, and effective, we can go back automatically to we can go back to the draft state. So sorry, my label are not good. So. Okay, so now I have created my life cycle, and I'm going to check if everything is okay. So we just remove those things. Okay, so to test if everything is okay with my life cycle, first I have to check it in this main matrix. Save it, but also because I want my new document to be created automatically in the draft state, I will select right here my life cycle. And because in my life cycle I have selected draft as a start state, all of my newly created document will be created in the draft status. So this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to create a new document in the doc base. So as you can see right now, my document has been created, and I have as status the draft value. So now my documents are created automatically in the draft status. And if I select this document and I go to this lifecycle menu, I can see right here the menu label that I have configured in that part. And so I can send my document to review. This, I can send it to approval, like this, and I can send it to effective automatically. And from effective, I can send it back to draft. So my lifecycle is my lifecycle works fine. So now we are going to improve this lifecycle by adding two entry state conditions. So the goal right now is to add two new entry conditions in the reviewing status. So the first entry condition must be that the document have to be in the current version. The other entry condition is that the document must not be locked. So to configure this, we are going to select reviewing, then as entry condition, select condition on the property, select our version label as a property, contains current, because if my document is current, this value, current value, will be in this our version label. This is something based on the documenting standards. And so in the error message, what we want to display is something like this. As you can see, you can use in those message this $value wildcard that will be replaced automatically by the property value. And so I'm going also to add my other condition, which is I don't want the document to be locked. So to do this, I will select, for instance, this rlock owner property should be equals to empty. And so here
we have a quick question on what you're typing in right now, actually. Gilda's asking if these settings are case sensitive.
Yes, they are. Also, one thing which is really important to know about this lifecycle is that the state name that you have typed here have to be the same than here, because here again it's case sensitive. So we have added those two new entry conditions, and what I'm going to do now is to, for instance, check out this document. So the document is now checked out, and if I try to send it to review, I have this message displayed. So as you can see, the $value wildcard has been replaced by the object name value, and I can check that my document does not have to be locked. Also, what I can do is to display all versions with this combo, select the old version and do the same thing, and here is my error, my failed message. So we've just added entry condition in our lifecycle. Now we are going to improve again this lifecycle by adding configuration in it. So first thing to do is to apply security on each state. So this is easy to do. Just have to add a new line with apply security. And then we also want to, for reviewing, request a new rendition. So for reviewing, I will request a new rendition. And for pending approval, I will request a new rendition, create a new major version. Like this, I can create a new major version and set the approval date as with the current date. So I want to set the current date as the approval date. So to do this, I will add a new action, again set property. I will select this validation date. And as you can see, you have some tooltip display here, showing that if you want to use the $today wildcard, once again, it's case sensitive. This will be replaced by the 2 days date and saved in this validation date property. So I will save it. And now, what I'm going to do in order to show that you can actually apply different security configuration that will be based on the different lifecycle states, I'm going to create 4 new security configuration and 4 new document sets, one for each lifecycle lifecycle state. So I'm going to select this security configuration. I can use the create from button in order to create a copy. So I will create one draft security configuration, one reviewing security configuration, one pending approval security configuration, and finally one effective security configuration. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I've made a mistake. I will use the create from button. It will be simpler. Okay, so I have now 4 new security configuration: draft, pending approval, reviewing, and effective. And what I'm going to do is to create 4 new document sets. So I will select this QA all documents as template, use create from once again, and this time I will create this one, and for this one the condition will be this one, because we only want document with the A status property equals to draft in this document set. We are going to do the same with reviewing.
So as Pierre is filling out these states, I'll just note that one useful thing we learned during training is that as you're creating components in D2, you'll be using that create from button a lot. It lets you copy all the settings from another component and build off of or subtract from something you've already configured. But also there's it's how you rename components. So if you create something and later you don't like the name, you can't go and edit the name, but you can just do a create from, add a new name, and effectively replace your old one.
So I have now created 4 new document sets. Okay, draft, reviewing, pending approval, and effective documents. And so, as I said, the more global document set have to be on the right. This is why I'm going to move those document set. And I'm going to check in the main matrix my security configuration made for the draft with the draft document set, the one made for reviewing with the reviewing document set, and then for pending approval and for effective. I will save it. And now I'm going to create a new document. So this new document will also be created as draft. But now if we check document permission, this one is using the new security QA draft configuration. If I try to send it to reviewing, so as you can see, I have to check it in first. Alright, so let's do this again. Document is now reviewing, and so permission is a good one, SecQA reviewing, and so on until effective. So pending approval has just created the new version of my document, new major version of my document. The permission is a good one, and then finally we have this effective state, and we can check that QA effective is used. So as you can see, you can easily configure different security based on the different lifecycle status. It will be also possible to apply different auto-link configuration depending on the document status. If you want your effective document to be linked in a specific folder structure, you will do the same way, but instead of creating security template, you will create different auto-link template. So now we will see one last part of the life cycle, which is the automatic transition. Automatic transition will allow you to go back automatically to a specific state when a specific action is performed. For instance, what we want to configure right now is the ability to go back automatically to the draft status when a document is modified. So I will select the from reviewing to draft transition and select check-in here. I will do the same thing for pending approval to draft, and from effective to draft, like this. And thanks to this configuration, when I will go back on the client like this. Select an effective version of the document and check this new version out and then check it in. The document will be sent automatically back to draft, and so the permission will be once again updated. So this is it for the life cycle. Is there any question about that part?
There are. Well, we have a question that goes back to the topic of D2 life cycles being different than Documentum life cycles.
Yes.
And this one's from Andy Khorshid. The question is, does that mean the D2 specific life cycle configuration gets stored in D2? Earlier we said everything is stored in Documentum.
No, there is no ability to store something in D2. As I said at the beginning, nothing is stored on an external base. Everything is stored in Documentum. The difference is that this configuration is stored in a specific D2 object as an XML file.
Okay, so in this case, it's stored in Documentum as an XML file. But so I guess the thing is while all D2 configurations, there's no separate D2, application that stores things. We're storing all of the configurations in Documentum, but that doesn't mean that Documentum Content Server recognizes the things you're configuring. So we're configuring a D2 lifecycle that D2 applications, anything that leverages the D2 configuration layer can access.
Yeah.
Right now, that includes, this D2 web app that we're seeing today. It includes the iPad application that's produced, and it includes, future products like, the future Universal Client and different, variations of X3, whatever comes out in the future based on this D2 configuration layer. We'll be able to leverage the life cycles. So there's, everything's stored in Documentum, but I think of D2 configuration as kind of like what WDK is to WebTop. I understand technically they're very different things, and the WDK is more of something you can use to customize, whereas D2 is configuration. But in terms of where it fits and what it's able to manipulate, it kind of sits in that same layer as where WDK was. And that's we have. I got a couple other questions that I'm still working to refine, so I think we're good to move forward from there.
Okay, so now the next part will be to create this property page. So before creating this property page, I just have to create 3 new dictionaries that will be used in the property page. I have to create site, department, and language. So let's do that quickly. So if you have any question while I'm doing this, you can we can answer to it maybe.
Yeah, well, we have one that came in around from Sandra Rangel around. So in this application, we added a Word and an Excel template that the user always has to select. I think the question is around. Is it possible to make the user not have to select a template, like if there's
a default template?
Right.
Yes, actually, if when I have configured this in my list, I have imported two different templates, and actually, if you have only one template in the list, like if we only have the Word template or only the Excel template, this one will be used by default. So if you already have one template in the list, this one will be used by default and you won't be able to choose.
Okay. So that's all I see for now. I'm assuming Sandra and others will keep pinging me if they have more if I didn't ask it right. But I think so far we're doing good.
All right, so I have created my for new dictionary, and now, as I said, the goal is to create a new property page based on the existing one, but this property page will be, let's say, an advanced version of the existing one with more things displayed. So what I'm going to do is to select the all simple property page, and once again I want to use this old property page as a template, so I will use create from, and so I will create a new property page based on the existing one. In this new property page I will add two new tabs. One will be named main, the other information. Yeah, one thing about those labels. As you can see here in my application, I can, everywhere in the configuration, I can enter the label in French or in English. This is because in my Dogbase, I have installed the French and the English locale. If you work on the Dogbase where there is only the English locale installed, you won't see that part, okay? So there is no need to use French directly in the configuration. This is only based on the language installed on the Dogbase, in the Dogbase. So now our goal is to create that part. So as you can see right here, we have different control on the same line. We have the creation date, version label, status, and owner name. And so to do that, once again, we are going to use the column set. In this column set, we will use this calendar control to display the our creation date. I will also use a new label with our version label and with the a status property, and on a name also, on a name, and finally I will add a combo with the language code property. So we can have a look at the preview right now. Okay, so as you can see, there is a mistake right now because created is supposed to be in the same line than an empty cell. So I can change that easily just by adding this empty cell control in the creation, in the column set, sorry. So now I have created, then version label, status, owner name, and language code. As creation date is disabled, I just have to uncheck again those fields, and here is what I have. Now I'm going to add a new separator like this, and a new column set again with this time two lists. One will be authors, the other will be keyword. So we can check like this. So we will care about those buttons later. Now in the second tab, I have validation date and effective date on the same line. So once again, in this new tab, I will add a new column set with two calendar date. So I have validation date and effective date. So once again, those controls are disabled. Then I have this separator and I have a combo just below. So once again, a separator, then a column set, and a combo inside with the transmitter site. Okay, so far so good. I will add a new separator, once again a new column set, and in this new column set, two new lists. One is drafting services, the other is application services. So two new lists, drafting services and application services. So I just have to change property page 8. We have right now our final property page. What we are going now is to configure every control value assistance and condition. So we've already done that part. Our creation date, our version label, a status, and owner name are disabled. So it's good from here. Then language code have to be enabled only on creation. So to do this, you have to select language code and you have this required condition tab. In this tab, just check creation mode, and this way the control will be required in the creation mode, but it won't be required, it won't be mandatory in the edit mode. So as value assistance, this combo have to use the QA language dictionary with the English translation. So yeah, sorry about that part. Enable only for creation. I was supposed to do this. Sorry, there is no required in this. So enable only for creation means that I have to leave the creation mode checkbox checked, but the other here can be unchecked. So here language code is enabled on creation, but on edition it's disabled. And so last part is required. So we already done that. We can check like this. So this is good for language code. Now authors. So authors have to be required, sorted. So here it is. They have to be required, sorted. As you can see, when a list is sorted like this, sorry, when a list is not sorted, you have those arrows to do manually the sort of the list. But if you check this, this list will be sorted alphanumerically. And so now we can check the value assistance, because as we have seen, this list is filled using DQL. Here is my DQL. So here it is. I can check directly here. Here are my documentum users, because this query here lists the existing documentum users. And I can also now configure the keyword. So keywords are free sorted list. So no need to check here and no need for value assistance. Then validation date, effective date are disabled. We've already done that because I have unchecked all of those checkboxes here. And transmitter site is controlled by the QA site dictionary. And drafting services, application services are controlled by the QA department dictionary. Like this, again, department, and same thing here. So we can now have a look at our property page. Value assistance works. I have my dictionary here, also here, and for transmitter site, this works also. Okay, so I can now save my property page. So what I'm going to do is to update the main matrix and use this advanced property page like this. And also I will go back in the creation matrix and update this creation matrix in order to have the ability to use my new property page on the creation. Because now, thanks to this, if I go in the client and try to create a new document, here is my new property page. I can enter different authors, different keywords. And so I can create now my document using those new property. Once again, template, and here is my new document. And if you remember, on our security configuration, we have configured that. We have configured that we wanted to use the author's property with version permission. And now, because I have added user 1, user 2, user 3 add authors, now if we look at the document permission, user 1, user 2, user 3 have version permission. Okay, so this is it for the property page. Now we are going to see the D2 workflow configuration. So here we are going to work with this workflow template, which has been already installed on your image and also on my doc base. This workflow template, the goal of this workflow is to take a document in the draft status, then send it automatically to reviewing, and then you will have this manual task. In this task, you will be able to accept the task and send the document to pending approval, or reject the task, then the document will go back to draft, and then there will be a manual task with some rejectors, which is the workflow initiator. And if you have accepted from this reviewer task, you will go to this manual approval task, and then at the end the document will be applicable, means effective, and the workflow will be over. So
Yes.
Quick question. Yeah, just a quick question. This one, I guess, is on behalf of Tomcat. You're about to show us how to configure D2 workflow presentation on top of an existing Documentum workflow template. What happens if someone creates a workflow template in Documentum and sends a task to a user, in D2, so it shows up in their inbox, but that workflow hasn't been configured in D2 config?
It won't work because as we have seen during the demo, there is a lot of things which are actually attached to a workflow task. Those things are coming from D2, and if those data, those objects are not created, the workflow won't be able to work properly. So actually, in D2, you have to use D2 workflows.
I think that's good to know for this audience because we are a group of SEs, and even though D2 deals right now are going through the D2 deal desk, one of the things that deal desk is going to ask you is to, if your customer is using D2 alongside maybe other Documentum applications in the same repository, if they have some users on Media Workspace or WebTop or Center Stage or something, and then they want to introduce a new set of users to D2, all of a sudden we need to start looking at, setting expectations correctly so they understand that D2 has, it's a specific layer on top of our workflows and its own version of Lifecycles. So they have to, we have to make sure we understand all of the constraints there.
Yeah. I think the workflow is it's the only thing which won't work if you use it with WebTop from one side and D2 from another side. Because let's say if you create a document from WebTop, the document will be displayed in D2, and the same thing if you create a document with D2, the document will be displayed in WebTop. The only thing that is that from a document created from WebTop, the configuration will not be applied, of course, but you will see the same thing no matter what is the client. But for the workflow, you're right. You have to use D2 for the workflow.
Okay, good to know. And another thing to mention is that I'm not sure if you covered this or not, but that this is only for Documentum, standard workflows built in Workflow Designer or Workflow Manager. It's not, D2 is not yet compatible with workflows built in Process Builder.
Not the version you see right now, but the new version 3.1, the one which will be released at the end of the year, you will be able to use Process Builder to create your workflow template, but you will have to build your workflow template with the same functionalities as the one coming from Workflow Manager. All of those features specific to BPM won't be supported in this version. They will be supported later, but not in the new one.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I think we have a couple of questions piling in here. Is this a good time to address those there?
Yeah. Then we will start the workflow, no problem.
Okay. Well, one is, when is 3.1 being released from Hautran? I think that one's still TBD, right? The goal was end of the year, but we're not sure on an exact date, right, for the 3.1 release?
Yeah, I don't have. I don't know. I don't know about precise date.
I'm with you on that. I wouldn't throw anything out there. I think your best bet is maybe to try and get an update from Peggy Ringhausen. But given that we're so close to the supposed release, you might be better off just kind of waiting and seeing. We also have a question around, are there plans to support XCP processes and Process Builder? I think you were addressing that when that came in. So, you know, initially with the 3.1 release, we'll support, you know, basic workflows built in Process Builder, but for, you know, we'll have to wait for a later release to be able to leverage like process integrator activities and advanced processes.
That's it. That's right.
Okay, I think that's all I have for now, so we should be good.
Okay, all right. So here is a workflow configuration. So when you want to create a workflow, first you have to put a name and then also a label. This label is the one that you've seen during the demo when I have selected the document and go in this send to workflow menu. Here is the label that you can configure. So let's call this one review, sorry, what is in the PowerPoint? Review and approval workflow, all right. Okay, workflow template. So here is the list of all of the existing Documentum workflow template installed in your doc base. You can click on view here to see a preview of your workflow template. Once again, here in this configuration screen, you have entry conditions, so you can easily add new entry condition in order to start the workflow. And then you have this option that will allow you to send the document back to draft automatically when the workflow will be aborted. So the lifecycle status will be sent back to draft automatically. And then we have that part, which is a task configuration. In that part, as you can see, we have this list on the left. In this list, gray items are automatic tasks. So the one that you have seen here, like reviewing, pending approval, applicable, and draft. And the white one are the manual task. So from the automatic task, you will be able to choose what is the lifecycle transition. You can also choose to apply or not the lifecycle transition on attachment. And so let's do this. Okay, so this is for the automatic task. Now for the manual task, you have a lot of options from those manual tasks. So first thing that you can do is to enter a subject and a message. You have once again the ability to use $value, the wildcard, and this will be replaced by property value. You have the ability to display each task in the workflow manager. If you remember the workflow, if you don't remember, the workflow manager is actually that part. So you can actually define what task will be displayed or not in the lifecycle. In the workflow manager. And you can also configure a lot of different options in order to acquire manually the task, because if you don't check this, the task will be acquired automatically when you will open it. You have also different options related to the electronic signature, to the audit, and you can also, from a task, define that it will be possible to change, in our case, from the reviewer to change who will be the approvers. So you can configure that also. You can also define a task as an external task. That means a task that will be used with people who don't have access to the doc base. So actually, this task will be sent by email. And so you can define the different property of this email. Do you want to attach the document? Do you want to attach a workflow note, a workflow scheme, a specific rendition? And then this external performer will be able to answer to the task, and it will have to answer to a specific email address to accept the task, let's say accept@emc.com, or to another specific address if you want to reject the task, for instance, reject@emc.com. And so for this reply, for this answer, you have also different conditions. Do you add the reply as workflow note? And we also have one last part in this task configuration, which is the task follow-up. So here you can define how long can last a task. So for instance, let's say 7 days. And for this task, you will be able to configure that, for instance, 2 days before the end of the task, you can send a message saying something like that. And you can choose to send this message to the task owner and also maybe to the administrator, workflow supervisor. You can also choose to configure that the day where this is the end of the task, you can send a message. And you can choose to execute different action. For instance, you can choose to reject automatically the task, to end means to accept automatically the task, to abort the workflow, to delegate the task to, let's say, the workflow supervisor, or once again, if you have specific needs, you can once again from here call your own documented method and do custom things from here. So we are now going to configure those tasks. So for reviewer, here is the subject and here is the message. I have also to configure that mandatory comment in case of reject, like this, and display task in the workflow manager. I've done that already. And for the workflow, I have to audit the task on acquisition and audit the choice of the next task. Now for approvers, here is my task subject. Here is my task message. Once again, mandatory comment in case of reject. Display task in the workflow manager and check all the audits. So display task in the workflow manager, check all the audits. And rejected. Once again, here is my subject. Here is my message. Okay, that was for the manual task. Now automatic task. So we've already done that. And now there is one last part, which is the participants configuration. if you remember during the demo, when we have launched a workflow, we used this dialog box and we use this first tab in this dialog box. This first tab is configurable in that part of the workflow configuration. And so from here, we are going to add 3 lists. So for reviewer, label will be reviewer. Default value will be $value authors. Let's say just 4 rows in this list. This will be sorted, required on startup. And this list will use DQL value assistance, which is here. And so I have to do this for also approvers. And also yeah.
While you're adding that, we had a quick question from Hautran around who is doing the external task correlation, D2 or process engine? Is process integrator required for the SMTP inbound? So I think this is around the usage of an email address there earlier. I was under the impression that there's nothing automated going on there, right? We're not allowed to use process integrator for SMTP inbound activities at this point because we can't support that type of workflow. So how is the email?
No, actually we have developed some documenting jobs, and those jobs read some email addresses, some POP account, and so they check if there is new email, and depending on the received email, they will continue the workflow.
Is that a customization, or is that considered part of the? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an example of where you could customize D2 to meet certain needs.
Actually, it's not a customization, but it's D2 technology.
Right, D2, but it requires basically an implementation team to write the job and set up the mailboxes correctly and all that, or to set up the job. Okay, so it's it's in that hazy ground, I guess, between configurations, not necessarily requiring a developer here, but it's also not using process integrator or stuff. I think that answers the question. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, we have now created our workflow configuration. So I'm going to check it with our main document, save it, and now I will go back on my application, select a draft document, and this time send to workflow, review and approval workflow. Okay. Okay, so just a second. Sorry for that. So actually, my workflow template is not installed, so I have to install it. I will do that quickly. Okay, so now it's installed, I can use it. So once again, send to workflow. So Here is my workflow launch dialog box. As you can see, every workflow performer has been filled automatically based on the authors property. If I remove those authors and I try to launch the workflow again, I will only have user 01 like this. And so, as I said before, from this screen you can enter your workflow node, add attachment, and set the planification. So I will send the workflow. Now workflow has been sent. I should receive the new task soon. Well, okay. Okay, so I don't know what is going on right now. Let's just try it with another user to be sure. So I will just use another user. Oh, sorry. So let's just send this new workflow, user 2. Okay, so let's skip this. I will check that later. So let's move forward with the workflow, and now just want to check what is missing. All right, so okay, so as the menu configuration is well described in the video that that you have received, I just want to skip that part. If we have some time later, I will show you that. But before, I'd like to show you the next step, which is search configuration. So about that, there is different thing to see. First thing to see is how you can configure the search configuration. So here is the search configuration screen. In this screen, you will be able to define what type of document the user will be able to search. So what we are going to do is to select directive, instruction, and procedure. And then for each type, you can define what property will be searchable. So in that case, we are just going to select subtype, title, and for instance, object name. Same for each document type. Like this. Let's call this search. And so I have just created this new search configuration, all right, to to be able to search only for directive, instruction, and procedure document. And as we have seen during the demo, there is some business rules which are applied directly on documents, but there is also some other business rules which are applied directly on the, let's say, user interface, or which are based on the user context. And to configure this, we are going to create a new document set, but actually this document set will not be a document set, it will be a user set, a set of user that will be defined based on a group. And so, thanks to this, we are going to check this new user set with this search configuration. That means that only people belonging to that QA contributor group will be able to use this search configuration. So I will save it, and now if I go back on the client, as you can see, I can now select my different document type, and I can search the good property. Here is my search result. And okay, so that was for the search configuration. And one last part, because before seeing the configuration import and export, is the display configuration. From that display configuration, you will be able to configure what are the properties that the user can choose when he will select custom column. So once again here, this is pretty close to search configuration. Just have to select different types. And for each type, select what will be the displayed property. So once again, let's select the same. Like this. And what is nice is that from that screen, as you can see here, I have displayed the subtype value, but here is display the key. But what I wanted to see is the label. I want to see quality control. I don't want to see QC. So I can select the subtype value, and here select a dictionary in order to enable a value mapping between the property and the dictionary. And now if I so sorry, I have to refresh my cache here. And so if once the cache is refreshed, now the good label is displayed and you don't have the key anymore, you can see the good subtype label. And so to end this webcast, I just want to show you again the ability to import and import the configuration. When you want to do that, you have to go to the File menu, select Export, then select your application. And here, once again, you can choose to export everything or to only export simple configuration object. So we will export everything. And once again, let's say that we moved to our production environment. I can select this zip file and choose to export everything or only specific configuration objects. All right, so this is it. There is plenty of other things to show you, but we're running out of time right now. But you can look at the video that have been made in order to have more information. Also, directly from the configuration, you can go into this help menu in order to view the D2 administration guide, which is quite big. There is more than 300 pages, but this is a good good document. You have a lot of information in this. Everything is detailed. You can also use directly from the client the same help menu in order to view, this time not the administration guide, but the user guide. Also, this one is pretty detailed, and you will be able to find a lot of things in it. Is there questions?
I'm checking now. Yeah, we've got, let's see, Paul Colburn was asking if there's also a best practices document available around like application creation, do's and don'ts with Documentum, etc.
Sorry, I did not understand the beginning of the question.
Paul was asking if there is a best practices document available. So we've got, you know, the product documentation you just showed us, which tells you what the controls are and how to use them. But is there anything around, you know?
No, there is no such document yet, but I think that we will create one soon. We as C6 and EMC, but there is no such thing yet.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of my understanding as well. It sounds like, you know, they're still spinning up all the wheels for, you know, for things to support this now that it's part of the EMC stack. So I think eventually we can expect what we're used to seeing there. And then yeah, I've got, it looks like there are maybe some installation questions, but I don't have any specifics, so maybe we can track that one offline. But I think that's all I'm seeing for now.
All right.
Is there, are we done? Is there anything else you wanted to show before we wrap up?
No, I think we're good now.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pierre. I think this was an excellent training. You did a great job of walking us through a lot of different things here, and I hope that it's...
Thank you, Austin, also for your collaboration. It was nice working with you.
Well, hopefully we'll continue working together. But yeah, great job. I hope everyone has a good head start now on building out their own demo environments using the you know, the PowerPoint and the presentation materials and the recorded demo that are available to you. Let us know if you don't have access to those, and we can work on getting you access. I also have a question on where can we download the configuration manual from Carlos?
Directly from the configuration. I think that this is already on the download center. I think on your center stage in EMC. But if you have access to a D2 configuration, just go in the help menu and select help. But ENC already has all of those documentation.
Yeah, I've seen D2 items in SubscribeNet, so you should be able to get it, from the Product Download Center. Hopefully, it's available in PowerLink. If not, it should. I imagine they're working on putting that up soon.
It's just, like you said, the easiest way is just to go to the Help menu within the D2 config, and that holds the PDF right down for you. Same thing if you want to get the user guide, you can go into the D2 interface, the regular one, user interface, and go to the Help menu, and you can pull it down there.
Exactly.
Very, very easy.
Okay. Well, if that's it, thank you all very much. Again, thank you, Pierre, for helping us through this.